the show with your friend and mine. So tell me, Doctor Squee, who's it gonna be this time? We like to hear you talk, and we love to hear you listen. And if you are not subscribed, you won't know what you're missing. So welcome to the Doctor Squee Show. Welcome to the Doctor Squee Show. Welcome to the Doctor Squee Show. Headphones up. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to the Doctor Squee Show. I'm Doctor Squee and this is my show. Guys, this is a special one. So, special for a few reasons, but we'll get into it. So, this week's guest is Mr. Tim Brooke-Taylor, the late great. And you might know him from The Goodies. From I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue on radio for almost 50 years. He was on that show before his sad leaving of us, his sadly dying. He did I'm Sorry I'll Read That Again before that, which was a scripted version of I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue. He wrote the Four Yorkshiremen sketch with the Pythons as they would come on to be. He was in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Such an amazing actor and performer, mainly a comedian, but acted in a few bits. And this was really special to me for a few reasons. So when I went into to edit this one, because I thought this one I would use this week, and it was one which was originally recorded in audio only, and I've since edited this to be a video version with a picture alongside it from when I met him. But also, like this week is actually, actually today as we record it, this is Tuesday. I know this is going on Thursday. Tuesday as we're recording, it's Willow's birthday today. And when I went into this, it turns out it's actually also this month, the fourth birthday of the Doctor, the third birthday, I believe it is, of the Doctor Squee Show. So basically at the same time when Willow was being born, because she's turning 3, just before that, we launched the Doctor Squee Show. And the original plan was to back up loads of episodes. And I recorded quite a few episodes before we went live with the show, originally, say, going out in podcast form. And sadly, Tim Brooke-Taylor passed away of COVID, which got, lockdown happened just after the convention, the Sci-Fi Ball, which I recorded this interview at. So, yeah, so I stepped it up. So I was like, I have to release this as the first episode and I have to release it soon because, more people should get to see this. One of the last ever interviews with Tim Brooke-Taylor, and I got to do it. I want to share this with everyone. I want everyone to be able to enjoy this this wonderful time which I had with Tim. And it meant so much to me because I grew up watching, listening to, I should say, I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue in the car with my dad. And he introduced me to The Goodies. Again, fantastic British comedy. Doesn't get enough remembered as it should do, but very much a sort of like wackier, more fun version, I think, of the of Monty Python. Not to say Monty Python wasn't very funny, but they really just had fun. It was really kind. It felt The Goodies. They're always just after a laugh, after having fun with people. And I think that really showed through. And Tim was just so nice, just so giving with his time. So many wonderful stories he tells in this. When we recorded this at Sci-Fi Ball, now Sci-Fi Ball at the time was happening at the Grand Harbour Hotel, which the front of which is just a glass front to it. And it's got these wonderful glass windows on the rooms. The window in which we're recording this had such a huge glass window on it. And there was a gale blowing that day. It was like sub-storm weathers, rain, wind. So you will hear in the background of this many sound effects going on as we talked. Just one of those things when you do something live. So you'll just hear that in the background. But I've tried to tidy up the audio as best I could. I think it sounds wonderful. And just what an honor to meet Tim Brooke-Taylor. My dad is no longer with us. So it felt like this was one of those things whereby, there's lots of these things, especially when I interview people from sci-fi and stuff, where I don't think Dad would be able to relate. I don't think it would mean a lot to him. I think if he had seen me interviewing Tim Brooke-Taylor, I think he would have got a kick out of that. So felt like Dad was in the room with me for this one. So yeah, and the photo which accompanies this this audio you're going to hear is me going like this. This is something like I nicked this hand gesture, so it's me pointing to one side, from Kevin Smith. So whenever he takes a photo, whether it's with a celebrity or whether it's just with a member of the public, he tends to do this kind of hand gesture of pointing towards the person, like, wow, aren't I lucky to be able to get a photo with you, with this celebrity who I love, or this just member of the public? Like, isn't this great that we get to be here together? You're a fan of my work. That's great. I always just thought it was such a nice giving gesture. So I started doing it in photos, and I just point to the person. It's like, isn't it great I get to be here with this person? I get to be here with Tim Brooke-Taylor. And my ex at the time was the other side of the photo. I cropped her out, not for any nasty reasons, just felt a little bit weird, I don't know, to post a picture. And I didn't know if she'd be happy with the picture, but anyway, regardless. So she starts doing this hand motion on the other side. And then Tim does this like thing with both hands where it looks like he's a Lego man. And it's just a lovely, spur of the moment, really weird, a wonderful photo for that. It's just so nice. I had just such a blast with this one. I hope you enjoy it, and I'm really glad to present this in video for the first time. I'm glad this gets to be available for people to watch back. Ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, sorry, just very quickly, thank you very much to the Sci-Fi Ball for letting me do this. You can, I'm sure, buy tickets for the next Sci-Fi Ball on the website now. Do check it out. Just Google Sci-Fi Ball, and you'll be able to find it. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the late, great Mr. Tim Brooke-Taylor. I mean, there's just so much to get through. But first of all, we've recently lost Nicholas Parsons.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, in both of your illustrious radio careers, if you ever crossed paths?
I did just a minute a few times in the sort of 70s and 80s, so I didn't really know him that well. But he went on for a very long time working, which was quite extraordinary. It makes me feel quite tired to think about it.
Well, it seems like almost there was a two-horse race for the longest radio shows between that and Just a Minute.
Yes, that's
just
right.
a minute, sorry, I'm having a clue.
Well, Just a Minute is winning at the moment.
Yeah.
But in 2 years' time, it'll be the 50th anniversary. I'm sorry, I have a clue. So.
That's just amazing.
Yeah.
And that itself, you just last night doing I'm Sorry, I'll Read It Again.
Yes.
So, I mean, I didn't quite catch the very beginning. Is that adapted from the original scripts, I take it?
Yes, the scripts that we did in the 60s have been adapted, and adapted for the occasion because there are one or two remarks that can only be applied to a Sci-Fi Ball, for start off, and also the time and various names. But yes, basically the scripts are from there. I listened to one the other day, funny enough. They play them on Radio 4 Extra on a Thursday, I think it is. It's 8:30, and I think that was me 50 years ago, 50 odd years ago. And actually, I found myself chuckling, which is not what I'm doing, but the scripts, there's some good stuff.
Yeah, and I believe though the reference to Piers Morgan was in the original. It was a prophecy. It was a warning to the future.
I was trying to think of Piers Morgan because thinking that would have given you a clue that he wasn't there in the 60s. No, he didn't haunt us then.
So that was the show which would later birth I'm Sorry, I Haven't a Clue. And I mean, how many years did I'm Sorry, I'll Read That Again?
I think I can't remember. We started probably about 64, 5, that sort of time. It came out of the fact that a studio. When we were at Cambridge, we did a review that went around the place, and eventually we all got proper jobs. But the Radio 4, or I think it was Radio 4, then it must have been the Home Service, said, would you like to do it on radio? And it's the same cast as students, and it was good fun doing it for years and years. We have very good audiences, very friendly sort of fan-type audiences, which meant you got laughs before you almost said the line occasionally. But we didn't mind that. Laughs are a good thing.
And am I remembering correctly, I think Rain Garden tells it that, they wanted to do some more of it, but they didn't want to script it anymore.
Well, it was, they got, I mean, I wrote some of it, but Graham wrote a huge amount, and Bill Oddie, and, they were doing a whole series at a time, and they were being paid almost nothing for the radio, so they wanted to keep it going, and this was a way of doing it without having to write a script. To start with, it was pretty awful. I'd quite like to hear the pilot now, because I remember being so embarrassed by it, and then going to the pub afterwards with Humphrey Lyttelton and saying, will we promise never to do this ever again? And it was agreed by everybody we'll never do it again. And the head of Radio 4 at the time, Tony Whitby, he said, yeah, go ahead with it. And it's his fault.
I mean, how did Humphrey Lyttelton come into? I mean, I'm not, I'm just such a huge fan of him on that, but it seems such a left field choice, a jazz.
It was a bit. I think we'd sort of David Hatch, who was in the show, but then part of the BBC, he'd worked with him, I think, and. I mean, as a teenager, I used to dance to him in the ballroom in Buxton and look up to this huge, tall, impressive trumpeter. And I couldn't believe later that I was working with one of my heroes. And he was absolutely brilliant all the way through. Wonderful.
Yeah. And, could you have you got a favourite Humph story?
It was not really, no, because there are too many of them. But I just remember very late on, and this is not so funny now, because I'm the age he was at the time, and he was much older than us. And I was giving him a hard time, and he suddenly said, I'm 78 for Christ's sake. And the whole audience roared with laughter. And then I told this the other day, and I thought, wait a minute, I'm 78. But he went on, and he played that grumpy, I don't care a thing about what they're doing, but he was just a good guy. And a great trumpeter. I loved his music too.
Yeah, I mean, just in such. I was thinking about this yesterday. Like, there's not many musicians who work with Louis Armstrong.
Yeah,
who described him as the British cat who swings his ass off. To then working with who was I saying is
me.
Android. Radiohead. Sorry.
All right.
Radiohead. And yourself,
me.
Of course. Yeah. I think you and Louis worked together.
Well, I think I and Louis were muckers. Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you, after the pilot? You being such
well, it really was.
It
was awful. I mean, nowadays there's a scripted intros and things like that which have been written and holds the show together. But still, there's a lot of ad lib. But then it was chaotic ad lib. I mean, we didn't really know what to do, and it was an idea would come out. Eventually, over the years, we formed some rounds which we sort of know what's not going to happen, but at least we know how we're meant to be playing it, And some of my favourite ones are totally ad-lib now. It's like the one word at a time letters to each other, and it's see the pressure on people's faces trying to get it through and get to the next line, and then you try and use a word that leads them to say what you want to, and they don't. It says something else that goes way away. And
well, I love it when I see you stitching each other up. It's the funniest thing. It's like
there is a bit of stitching up. Yes, yes, there is. Yes,
like Graham just jumping in with an and.
Yeah, well, what I do now is comma.
Yes, that's a good one too.
Yeah, I overuse it, but it's very useful.
Speaking of, like, we spoke a bit about Humph there. What about working for all those years with your Willy?
Well, Willy was a good mate, and we'd known each other for a long time because when our student review went to Broadway, America, David Frost organised a tour of That Was the Week That Was, and I and Bill Oddie were asked to be part of it, and 3 of the original cast, including Willy Rushton, were there. So I toured America, and we got on really well, and actually went on a little trip to Mexico together. But when he came back, it was a little time before he became my partner. And the extraordinary thing is I did a film in 1969, I think it was, and I'm embarrassed, and I apologise to the gay community. I was so campy, it was embarrassing. But when I saw the film a lot later, I saw myself leaving my lover, who was Willy Rushton. It's still absolutely amazing. That was the sad part of that film. It was Sharon Tate's last film before, and she was pregnant. We didn't know that, and she was a lovely, lovely person. It was a terrible film, but it was. She was very good in it, and I wrote and act with Orson Welles, as you do.
Yeah.
So I think that film has died away somewhere, but I've got a copy on a modern VHS.
Yeah.
Not sure how to play it, but yeah.
The one thing which obviously just I'm sorry, I haven't a clue. It's been going for so long, but it's just
yeah. All right, you're right.
No, but I was going towards a compliment.
Oh, right.
It's the way that it's kept up with time. So I heard a little while ago they replayed the first episode, and or one of the early episodes certainly, and the round was making animal noises. and just you're also kind of giddy. That was so anarchic then, and then cuts to the 80s or 90s. I remember hearing an episode where Willy Rushton was talking about his whistling dildo from the Innovations catalogue, and just, I mean, how does a show go through? Just keep coming up with keeping up with the times like that.
Well, with great difficulty. We've got a new set of recordings in March and April. I start to try and think of ideas, new meanings and things like that, but none of them come because I've done that before, I've done that before, I've done that before. I thought I was so clever coming up with a sound charade, and that Toys R Us. Well, I got Dads Are Me. And I thought this was brilliant, and they said, you did that 8 years ago. And I thought, oh no. So the answer is, it's quite a strain to try and think of new things, but
you learn, I believe, from the goodies. They're not going to repeat it, so you have to.
That's true. I don't think most people would remember Dad's Are Me either, but perhaps I'll slip that in the next series.
And obviously, where people have sort of left us, you had to have different comedians in. Do you remember why the decision was made to have a revolving kind of guest in the Willy Rushton chair, if you will?
Well, I think they couldn't think of somebody that was necessarily part of the team, so to speak, and so it was, let's try some new people, which in many ways has worked, but it's always a bit more of a strain on me because I've always got a new partner most of the time. And now I'm the last man sitting, as they say. But we've just done a tour, stage tour, in 19 venues around the country with slightly mixing cast, but some really good people. They're all quite young, which is annoying. And they're very good, so it does work together, and they know it. They've heard the programme since they were quite even younger.
Yeah,
and so that gives it a fresh feel as well. But I miss Willy though, still.
Yeah, I mean, when Phil Jupiters was talking about being on the show, he compared it to be the Stones going on tour and asking you to sit in with them. Like that's how it's revered, Is that...
I like that idea. I think I prefer to the Beatles, actually, if that's okay.
Okay, good. Right, Phil, if you're listening, I'll take that compliment, please. I think it's still not bad.
No, it's not. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And I mean, most shows, like the five of you, had such wonderful chemistry. The fact with this rotating cast of guest comedians, it doesn't seem like it's lost. It's different, of course.
It is different, but we're also lucky because we all said... Humphrey Lyttelton was irreplaceable, and in many ways, you couldn't replace Hump. But Jack Dee's got his own persona now, and it's fantastic, and he gets better and better and better.
Well, I don't know if you remember when they had that first series after Hump left us, and they had 2 shows with a different host.
Yes, that's right.
When you did the Jack Dee ones, it was here in Southampton, and I was
in
the audience.
Oh,
I saw
really?
those 2, and it was wonderful because. Sorry, I do mean this in a very reverent way, but like he was so nervous, you could tell it meant so much to him. But you guys were doing everything to help him out, and it was just so lovely to see. It
would have been a very nerve-wracking thing to do. I agree with that, but he doesn't give the impression of being nervous.
He was the first guest host up.
Right. Well, I think there was Stephen Fry and who else was there? 3 of them, and it just seemed he seemed a natural fit, and also the one that was happy to do it, But he has got this tour. He just came out with the most wonderful stuff. What was tragic about the Nicholas Parsons, obviously his death, was that we used to do a thing called Just a Minute, and he played Nicholas Parsons. And of course, Nicholas died, couldn't do it in the last 3 shows because he had died, and so we thought we might do it in reverence to him, then thought it's not going to work that way. So
I think. Some people would get it, some people would maybe.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
I just remember when Jack was kind of like, I think obviously after all these years, Hump knew when to tell you guys just to stop, that round's over, and you just had Barry Crides going to him, Jack, and then you go, oh right, yeah, okay. So it's just lovely.
Yeah.
Getting on some other projects, because obviously you've got all these wonderful projects in your illustrious career. So the Goodies is obviously one you're getting asked about a lot at the moment. It's just reaching an anniversary itself.
Yes, it is, and it seems extraordinary actually. 50 years. I haven't seen them all again. They've all been properly renovated and made better digitally, but It's a sad thought of me sitting at home watching myself from 50 years ago. But there's several ones people have brought up this weekend that I think, well, I must go and look at that one and see it again. And I enjoy them more now because at the time things went wrong. It rained when you were meant to be filming and you had to rewrite it and change it. So all you're thinking of is, oh, pity we couldn't do that. But now I've forgotten all the problems and just see things see this young man doing things I wouldn't even dream of doing that. We're very painful, falling off our stupid tandem.
Yeah. And had you all met on Clue, and then
we were all at I'm sorry, I read that again together. So Graham Garden and I had done a couple of series. Basically, it was an encyclopedia of comedy, so you could have different subjects and then write it. And we did 2 of them, and the BBC said, we'd like a 3rd series, but could you make it slightly different, meaning better? And Bill was singing on the show, and then we just thought, let's try and do something that doesn't have punchlines, because that's the problem with sketch shows. You get each punchline, you've got to start all over again. So Python had got around it very cleverly, usually by Graham Chapman coming on and saying, let's do something completely different, but they didn't have a punchline, so we got around that by having a storyline. But basically, before every series, we would have a meeting. We used to call it our panorama meeting, looking at all the subjects that were around at the time, and then try and squeeze them into a story in different ways. That's how it started. And
I think for me, the reason why it still stands up today and it's so markedly different from the other shows of its time is it's kind of coming from a place of wonderful positivity. I mean, it's called The Goodies, and it's just people trying to have a laugh and kind of a good time. Like, whereas if you look back in Python and stuff, there's kind of a comedy of cruelty a bit in there, and there's some jokes which are more dated.
I think that with Python, Life of Brian is one of the best things ever made.
It's amazing.
But the series has dated a bit in a strange way. It's odd to watch because I did this series before, a Last 1948 show with Marty Feldman, John Cleese and Graham Chapman, and that was very similar in a way. But it was good fun. But the Python thing, I mean, the classic sketches are still classic.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah. I don't mean to...
No.
Down to build you up, but I think there was something...
Oh, you can do that.
It's just that I think there were so many other shows, I guess what I'm getting is there's so many other shows which tried to copy that mould, whereas you did something kind of which was different, which was coming from, as I say, a kind of place, I think.
Well, it had a mixture of satire and cartoons. It was a mixture of them both. And I always say, it's interesting, probably the best audiences we had appreciated it most were Australia and Scotland, and I think it's because it's anti-establishment in a way, the whole thing. Australia has just been phenomenal. They showed it every day of the week for years and years and years, side by side with Doctor Who. And so when we went out there, they knew more about the shows than we did. They knew them, and there was a Goodies fan club online, which they did, which filled us with all sorts of detail. They were brilliant. So it's extraordinary, really.
That's great. One thing I try and get from all my guests is just a little bit of advice, to help me be a better presenter and everything else. What have you got advice about longevity? I think you could say something about that.
I'm grateful she's here, and so I'm crawling. It's thanks to my wife I'm still here and still talking. I think the answer is be frightened every time. At the end, the quite serious thing is, I used to do sort of plays with, and some of the actors had no worries at all. They'd learn the lines in 2 seconds. The minute something went wrong on stage, they were completely thrown because they'd never conceived that it could go wrong. So I still now worry about what's going to happen, and we're ready for things to go wrong. So that doesn't sound very positive, but actually it does help.
I think all these years of improv probably helps.
Well, it's a bit like fighting in a war. It's best to hide behind things when you have to, or when you can.
I mean, it's something I loved last night. It's just, when you tripped on the line, you made a joke after it.
I panicked into that,
yeah. But it's lovely. And I think it's those bits of improv which just lift it.
Yeah, well, if the audience go along with you. But if you've got a strict director saying, hold it, let's do that again, it's not quite the same thing.
Well, without wanting to take you, I just want to thank you because I listened to I'm going to with my dad in the car when we were going places, and I still listen today, and it's still
You're
wonderful.
A very intelligent man.
Well, I can't go. It's not going to get better than that. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
And that was Tim Brooke-Taylor. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope the gale that is blowing in the background didn't distract too much. But yeah, what an honor to get one of the last interviews ever with Tim Brooke-Taylor. Literally, there was like a matter of maybe it was a week or two before he passed away after this was recorded. And, you know, lockdown was, I think, announced before that even. So, yeah, this was a big fat hairy deal for me. I hope you enjoyed it. And 4 years of the Doctor Squee Show. I'd just like to thank everyone for watching, for giving any time to something which I've done is always a great honor. And we've got, like, you know, our most downloaded or watched video is with Paul Gross from Due South. Actually, no, I think it's been surpassed by another, but that video anyway has got 11,000 views. And there's one which I did with some writers directors from a project called I think it's 500 space aliens, I think it is. Sorry, remembering that, forgetting the title, but it was this wonderful like art kind of piece. And that's got oh god, yes, thousands upon thousands of views as well. And it just means the world to me. So thank you very much for watching. For the last 4 years, I've been Dr. Squee. With me has been Willow, whose birthday it is as we record. And that was the Doctor Squee Show. And in a world where you can be truly anything, please live like you've got two hearts and be kind.